Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining the first Ideas Mean Business webinar of the series. I'm Siwan Smith, Lead for Diversity and Inclusion at KTN, and it's my honour today to introduce our host, Mark Martin. Mark is CEO for UKBlackTech and a thought leader in EdTech, sharing his insights to educators around the world. He's an expert teacher and advisor for major tech brands around the world, whilst continuing to advocate for homegrown talent, digital skills and education equity. In 2019, he was awarded a London Business Awards for paying it forward, as well as an MBE for services to education, technology and to diversity in UK technology. Today, Mark will be inspiring us all to be innovative. So over to you, Mark.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. So let me just pop on my screen. Okay, so welcome to Ideas Mean Business, and today we're going to talk about being inspired to innovate. And you know, in this time of uncertainty, time of crisis, pandemic across the world, what does it actually mean to innovate in this time? You might be working on something already. You might have a few ideas that you want to turn into some type of product or tool or startup. And what I've done is that I've been able to kind of gather some thoughts with my education hat on. And with my education hat on, I will share a little bit about that. So I'm a computer science teacher in secondary schools. I'm a guest lecturer for universities for computer science. And we do lots of stuff around software, product development, so which is great to be talking about it today. So when we think about ideas, sometimes we find that there are gatekeepers, and depending on you know, the area that you in, you might get a lot more no's. You might get people that fail to understand your vision or your view. And it's really important that when you do come across some challenge, if you have an idea or you've been thinking about some of the challenges, it's also thinking about what are the solutions, what are the things to get past the quote unquote bouncers or the people that might have an issue with the innovation that you have. And many moons ago, the picture, the purple picture or mauve picture, for those people that can see it, that was me at the Bet Show, which is one of the biggest educational technology shows in Europe. And another picture alongside that is me in Serbia talking to over 500 teachers. Now, you've got to start somewhere. So this picture shows you that when I first started talking about my passion for education and technology and supporting edtech startups around the world, there was only a few people that listened to what I had to share and what I had to respond with. But what you find is that as you become more experienced, more knowledgeable, and you understand your craft and you understand where you sit in that craft, then you're able then to make the real difference and change that you want to see. And then here are some other kind of illustrations that I've done with my practice. And you wouldn't believe that these two drawings started off with a PowerPoint slide of me thinking about how to teach a fantastic lesson, or how do we make society and education become more digital. And what I want to share to you today is that with the idea or the business or the kind of scope you have for this industry, it starts off as a seed. And what you'll find most times is that if you plant a seed today, you don't get a sunflower tomorrow. You've got to nurture that, you've got to prune it, and you've got to monitor over time to really seek the rewards or the kind of the kind of result that you want to see in the outcomes. And again, with one of the things that I would always advocate for is that make sure that you upskill yourself, you develop yourself in the area of interest. So if you've got a passion for, technology, what kind of, qualifications or courses have you been on to make sure that whatever you're doing, you've got some credentials, you've got some credibility in terms of the pursuit you're trying to lead with. Now, when we think about, well, before COVID-19 and when we looked at the our local high streets, they were becoming automated. So innovation was coming in. People with fantastic ideas. We started to see that more and more in society. So whether you went into, a self-service supermarket, if you went into a fast food restaurant, if you went into local spaces, you can connect to Wi-Fi. So what we found more and more is that our high street was becoming digitalized. That makes more opportunity for us in local spaces. And then, with the Oyster card, Zip cards, it's very fascinating, that technology. So young people are in schools now buying food or marking the register with the Oyster card. And so we're seeing lots of innovation happening in society. And where do we hold into that narrative? If we told probably back in the day to get a job in a supermarket, now there's self-service checkout. So what does that mean for the future generation? What does that mean if you're an innovator? Does that mean that there's new opportunities around the corner? Yes, there is. And it's about trying to understand where the pain points are. And I'm going to go into more around, with all this innovation, are there any pain points that you're starting to see? Is there a business model that out there that you can really capitalize upon? And then what we found during lockdown is that we saw some real transformation from the big issue, from becoming a newspaper into like a web mobile app where people can still digest the content. So that showed you in the sense of how even a charity became more innovative. And then, you had car park festivals where people were, driving their cars to listen to their favorite artists and so forth, to keep social distancing. And we had Zoom, and we had live performances. And this was all birthed out of people thinking, how can we still connect with our customers or our clients or our fans or our followers? And I've heard some fantastic stories over COVID-19, where people have, gone above and beyond to really innovate or listen to their customers or clients during lockdown to really upscale their product. Now, ideas are normally from the following. So it's normally a personal thing. It could be from industry. It could be a societal issue that you've actually identified, or a regional or global kind of area that you want to work upon. And what you'll find is that once you've identified that idea that you're already passionate about, or something that is giving you great interest, or it's in your field or your sector, it's about looking about the micro or macro department. So what we find is that when you look at a problem, or when you're trying to solve a solution, are you homing into it, into the very fine details? Or do you have a global kind of outlook or outtake on that particular thing? And this is really interesting in the sense that depending what department you sit in, sometimes can actually become your block, where it either can be too broad or it can be too specific. And there's not a right or wrong which department it is. Sometimes you might even want to say, I want to be in a meso. So meso is right between the micro and macro. So you're sitting in the middle. So you understand what happens on the ground day to day, or you understand what happens in the wider kind of arena of the sector that you're trying to innovate in. But when you think about new products, there's normally 6 ways to look at products, or to look at new things or new ideas. And I like to draw upon these kind of 6 bullet points. So 1, it can either be new to the world. So this is like brand new, innovative. The world has not seen this innovation or idea before. It is exclusive. And, but to be honest with you, that's probably only 10%. 10% of new ideas that the world hasn't seen is probably 10% of the innovation that we see on a daily basis. And then new to the org. So what we find is that lots of people within organizations are innovating new products, new lines, especially you see it a lot in, food businesses, where people are bringing out different menus or different kind of, or whether it's tech products, you're bringing out a new add-on or a new feature, or you're adding on to the existing product or idea. So what you'll find with your idea is that it's not going to be it's not going to be unique in that sense. It's either going to fill into one of these 6 bullet points. The other thing to think about is the product going to be transforming existing what's already out there? Is it going to be an upgrade? Is it going to be like an add-on? Next point is about repositioning the product. So probably the product or idea can be used for one thing, but actually it's multi-purpose. It could be used for a range of different mediums or resources. And then lastly, that most people, when I do speak to them about ideas and taking that idea into a product, it's about, does it reduce time? Does it, reduce costs for the client or customer? Is it giving them a better experience in terms of using the actual tool? And, what you got to think about if you've got an idea that you're really passionate about, or if you've got a startup and it's just about to take off, or you are running a startup and you are going through, the different transition, where does the product sit? What's it trying to do? What's it trying to achieve? And, one of the things that I say to people is that 10% of all new products are truly innovative, unique to the world. So that's what I was saying before around that. With the ideas and passion you have, it's good to test it with people, because I think some people can say, oh, my idea, I can't tell, no, it's so secret. And to be honest with you, if I gave you 10 ideas today, to go and turn that into a fully fledged business would probably take a year or 2. That's why I think that sometimes with the ideas that you have, it's good to test it with close friends, colleagues and family, just to make sure that you are trying to solve a problem that needs to be solved, because you don't want to end up trying to solve something that doesn't need to be solved. There's no need for it. No one wants that. And that will probably save you a lot of time and labor. And then here are a few other kind of pointers when we think about products and ideas. Products are merely a means to satisfy customers' varying needs and wants. Society's changing rapidly, and with the pandemic that we're experiencing, how is the idea or product that you have meeting the needs of the customer? And this is very interesting, because sometimes when we talk about products, people are so passionate about their product, it becomes they think it's the silver bullet that is going to revolutionize the world. And it might do, but how is that? How are you tapping into the customer? Are you listening to them? Are you listening to their grumbles? Are you listening to their feedback? Have you done user research to find out, the idea or product that you have, it's got some legs, it's got some expansion to it. And then when we think about customers choose a product based upon the perceived value of it. So depending on the value proposition, that's when you'll get the greatest buy-in from the actual product you're trying to convey. And then no product can be profitable until it sells. So you can, dress it up to be the most greatest idea ever, but unless it makes, £1, £2, £3, £4, it is not profitable until you can make some traction out of that. And with your idea or product, there's this model called Pest. And Pest looks at the political climate, the economic climate, the societal climate, and technology climate. And sometimes you've got to think the Pest way of doing stuff. And when we look at the political stuff, what's the policy? What's the government policy? What's the legislations around it? Because you don't want to do something, then come up against the wall of, legislations or kind of, insurance or policies that actually will not take the idea off the ground because it's way too expensive. Or there might be some law involved that you need to be thinking about. And I'm going to be sharing more about, especially if you've got an idea or if you've got a product, how do we ethically get it to the point of scaling and to a global market? And then when we think about the economic, there's lots of things happening at the moment. how will your idea or product sit within this current climate of COVID-19 or the recession or even Brexit. So there's factors, but alongside the factors, there's probably opportunities too. And then what are the societal and technology factors that you need to be thinking about? Especially, I'm going to move straight to technology. When we think about technology, most people are scared about the GDPR. People are scared about in terms of migrating a legacy system that might be clunky into an online cloud-based system. Some people are worried about data. How do we keep people's data safe, secure, and how much do we need to invest to make that happen? So there's quite a few factors that you need to think about when trying to get your initiative or product off the ground. So when forming a team, so most people say, Mark, you know, I've got this amazing thing, but I need I need some specialists to come on board to help me to, get the idea going or to start, getting the product to the next level. So when you're getting a team together, it's really important that, you look at people's expertise, incentive, drive, and objective. And it's very tricky because if you haven't got no startup money, you might have some finance, you might have a loan, you might have got some grant. So depending on how you've received that remuneration, you will definitely, it will definitely dictate which way in terms of how you kind of acquire that talent. Now, some people do it by, putting out an idea and creating a community around the idea, and then talented people, if they've got time in the day, they would contribute to the idea. Or some people just look for talent within universities or local ecosystems and pay them a freelancer wage or a salary to get it going. But one of the things that I stress about when getting a team together, it's about looking for people that are passionate about the idea too. So alongside the expertise and so forth, try and see if you can get people that are passionate and who will buy into the idea, which has longer longevity. So I've got a list of like what it is when you are developing this idea and the different stages to think about. So as I mentioned in the earlier slides, is that when you've got an idea, make sure that you kind of write it down, you test it as you've written it down with the relevant kind of stakeholders. Validate the idea, so make sure you get people that can help you to test that. So that's about market research, developing the idea has potential. Another thing that I would also stress about is making sure that you test the concept. So making sure that when you're testing the concept, you're tapping into the different sectors, you're looking at previous case studies, you're following people online, and you're really doing market research. Because what I find a lot is that, and especially when I work with edtech companies, is that they haven't done enough concept or market strategy when it comes to like flourishing the idea or flourishing the project to the next level. And these are some of the things that I would stress you need to do, because you don't want to bake a cake and miss the main ingredients. Whether it's, I like chocolate cake. You don't want to bake a cake and it has no chocolate in the cake, because you felt that this cake had to be in this particular way, but your audience liked chocolate in the cake, and then it gets messy. So one of the things I would always stress is that please do the market research, test the concept, test the idea with people in the field, and connect with others. One of the things that I would also recommend is connect with others that are in that field or who have built similar products in the past. What journey did they go on? What experience did they go through to get to the successes that they have? Market strategy, identify market placement, main problems is trying to solve. So what are where would your product sit within the market or within the sector? And, does it need to sit within there? And is it really desperately needed to sit within these spaces? And then, you know, this more gets onto the more of the technical stuff around business analysis. So the business aspect of new products is analyzed, product development. So you're prototyping, you're getting user research. So you're getting feedback from people that might want to test the product out or test the idea out. So whether you're a coder, programmer, or designer, or you've got something to bring to market, before you actually bring that to market, you've got some type of you know, prototype or beta version to test the audience. And then I think that after you've done probably a lot of these steps that are listed, then I think you should be ready to launch something into the relevant spaces that exist. Now, we are living in a day and age where technology is moving at a very fast rate. And as a computer science teacher, it always amazes me that probably every other month, there is a new tool that enters the market that can automate some of the processes or automate some of the processes or functions that you have. And, you know, I don't know how much of you have heard of the no-code era, where I've been watching the movement very closely, and people have been building amazing tools with no code, and whether it's drag and drop, whether it's you know, simple GUI, graphical user interface kind of methods and processes, that's where some people have gone towards. So if you're not technically gifted, there are a lot of tools like Airtable, Webflow, Zapier, that can, you know, get your idea to the next level. If I had more time, I'll probably go through a lot of these tools to showcase the power of them, but it might just be when you're doing your research to take a screen print of the screen, or to come back at this talk another time and look at some of these tools and see the power of them in terms of what they can actually do. And then, you know, there are different stages to when you are designing that tool or product. And it's interesting, there's a lot of different camps when it comes to building an effective product ready for the market. So from design thinking to lead up to agile. And, you know, with design thinking is all about making sure that the design is so tight that when it does come onto development stage, that it's ready to do what it says. And then that then falls into kind of the lean up phase, where, you know, you're measuring, you're building, you're listening to feedback from the people around you about the tool. And then you get into this kind of agile sense where, you know, you would develop the product in one cycle, and then all the feedback that people have said, all of the additions that you need to do, you would add upon it on that cycle. Then you move on to another kind of sprint, they would say. So depending on how you want to build your idea or product, you need to make sure you got structure. There needs to be some type of model. Now, the reason why you've probably heard a lot about lean and agile is because those are the minimal kind of ways to do things. And it's interesting because I spend a lot of time with a lot of lecturers, and a lot of lecturers say, actually, we like project cycles. And that's what I'm going to be speaking on in a minute, in terms of why I think that project cycles is also a great tool to have when you're building out your idea or you're building out the concept. So here's more of like a breakdown of what I was saying earlier in terms of the sprint. So say, for example, the first sprint that you done was the beta version, and then you list upon the feedback of that beta version, listen to all the critique that people have told you, and then you test again, and then you test again. Now, the issue that I find sometimes, people do not have sprints or beta versions, which in the top diagram here. They normally would normally roll out the product and just keep on building the product, like we see in this image below, the first image, where you put the wheels, then you put the axis in, then you put the lower third, then you put the car together. But actually, when you are building something, you got to make sure that whatever you're building from the offset it does what it says that you plan to do. And as you kind of iterate and develop the product, it will then take a shape of its own to get to the destination that you want. So yeah, you know, there's lots of literature on these areas of software development and idea kind of creation. So that's what I wanted to share for now. And then you've got this big kind of area of called DevOps. Now, DevOps in the last probably 5 years has, you know, stormed in to a lot of the tech space and how we operate. And all DevOps is that DevOps is making sure that whether your technology sits on a mobile device, a tablet device, or a web browser, the data, the operations are all in sync. And that's been a kind of game changer for a lot of people that have technology on different platforms. And with DevOps, it kind of takes you through a cycle of making sure that you test, debug, deploy, monitor, audit, diagnose, tune, feedback, analyze. So it's taking you through a fine cycle of making sure that whenever you're developing products on the multiple devices, it's all doing the same thing. It's not doing different things. Because imagine, you know, your mobile app done something different to your tablet app, and your tablet app done something to your desktop app. It would be a nightmare in terms of how, you know, you operate and how the technology is supposed to work on multiple things in a kind of real-time environment. So one of the things that that I like to talk about, and I know that sometimes these presentations can be very heavy because there's a lot of things to digest in a very short space of time. And what I want to do today is just give you a flavor. So hopefully all of the slides that I'm showing you is giving you a flavor of actually to get this idea going in a fashion that I'm ready to launch. I'm testing it with all of these kind of models and cycles. So basically, you know that whatever you bring to market, at least it has some foundation, some firm foundation to build upon. Exactly what I said at the beginning, planting that seed and nurturing over a period of time. So these kind of diagrams that I show is all about nurturing. It's not about trying to show you the sunflower, because that's probably the easiest part when you do get there. But when you look at the project life cycle, it's very interesting to me in terms of that defining part. So I think probably most of you are starting to define the idea that you have, or the projects or the startups that you're having, and you've got clear goals and clear specification, tasks and responsibilities, who does what. Now, once you've got that, the planning part is very difficult because, you know, once you start making money from the idea or startup, then you need to have different budgets for different things and different resources and different staffing and risk. Now, this project lifestyle model, even though it's just used for projects, I think that it should be used in the startup world too, because this gives you a firm foundation of what is required when you are thinking about the next steps of your tools that you have. Now, when I think about staffing, as I said before, staffing is until you need it, until you need the technical expertise to get the idea to the next level. That's when you will draft staffing in. You know, you definitely need admin at some part, because you can't be sitting at emails all day if you're trying to build this innovative piece of project. Another thing I would also suggest is that when you're moving from the planning to executing, you need to track that progress. So I don't know whether you now you're starting to have a track, or you've got a diary of, you know, how you're moving from phase to phase. It's very important, because that's what it says in the executing part, that you got a status report, you're monitoring the changes, quality control. You can forecast that, you know, if we get 50 subscriptions this month, it's going to pay for our developers, it's going to pay for X, Y, and Z. So it's great to, you know, once you do start to think about your idea, how do you turn that into a business? So the easiest part is not the easiest part is the idea. The hardest part is turning the idea into a business. And these types of models show you how you have to turn that into a business so it's sustainable and it has longevity within the market. And then we've got the delivering in terms of you might have to train customers how to use your tool. You might have to put some tutorials out there, release resources, release staff, lessons learned. So there's going to be quite a few things that you're going to have to do within your startup to really get it off the ground and to make it fully functional. And then you've got the 7 Ps that, about marketing. And 7 Ps is very important when you're thinking about your product in terms of the quality, the image, how does it look, the branding, the features, the support, the customer service, the use occasion, availability, the warranties. So these are some of the things that you need to think about when your product's ready to reach the market. You've got a great marketing strategy at hand. So, long gone are the days where I think personally you can just put something online and retweet it and post it. I think it needs to be much more than that. You need to build relationships with your clients or customers. You need to think about marketing, communication, keeping them regularly updated of the next version of your project or the insights of different people working at your organizations. You might have some promotions, some self-promotions that you need to put out to get people interested, coming back. Then the pricing, how much do you price it at? Is there discounts? How do people pay? How do you get regular payers or recurring payment coming back into the model? So the 7 Ps really gets you thinking about the sustainability of the idea and how you're going to put that into the atmosphere, like the Batman logo in the air, that, hey, we're here, we're ready to, we're ready to help you to get to the next level of whatever that is. And we've got the technology or idea to do that. But one of the things that we don't talk about is that everything has a sell-by date. And, with the product, what you'll find is that once you've launched the product into the market, you've got low sales, you've got high cost and no profit. Sometimes when you're launching it at the first of all, you might not get the remuneration that you want. And then people will say, well, Mark, how do I go about increasing my sales, or how do I put this product into bigger spaces? And some people do the cold calling, some people jump on LinkedIn and try to follow everybody to follow their product, or they go on social media, or they kind of connect with influencers, or they write blogs, or they kind of do some thought leadership pieces on YouTube where they talk about the product and what they're trying to solve in the world. So there's a range of different ways how you generate attraction to your organization in order to increase the sales. But you need to know where you are, and I think that this is more for the startups that have been around for a little while, probably on this presentation, listening in now. Depending where you are in terms of your introduction and growth, will ultimately then help you to get to that next point of maturity, where you're getting constant sales, you're getting constant remuneration, you've passed probably the 3-year kind of MOT or milestone to make your product sustainable. And then what you'll find is that with every single product or every type of service, it will decline. So that might mean that you need to bring out a new service or kind of refine, or go back to the original slides that I said earlier around, do you add more add-ons? Do you enhance? Do you bring a new product line out? Do you kind of, revamp the whole thing so it can actually be quicker and faster, the next iteration that you do? So these are some of the things that definitely, when you're looking at the bigger picture of your idea, to be thinking about in terms of the start, the introduction to the decline. And this might sound a bit daunting, but the good news is it's a fantastic journey. It's a fantastic journey if you're realistic with your expectations. and you create a support network around you. So it's not just you. It's not just you trying to make this happen. You might need to get inspiration from, again, your friends, your family, your community, giving you ideas, showing you like some of the areas that you need. Because one of the important things when you are building that idea or building that a product is your mental health. And we don't really talk about that a lot in terms of these types of spaces. It's all about get rich quick and make a lots of profit. But actually, you still got to manage your mental health, because in some parts of this cycle, it can be very stressful. You're spending long hours. You're also trying to prove to people that this is going to work. And the mental health thing around that is about drawing on people's expertise. It's about sometimes taking time out and then coming back in it again, because I've been there where you can actually nearly burn yourself out if you're not careful, because you feel that you've got this fantastic product, I've got this idea, it's going to take over the world, but actually you still need to rest, you still need to sleep, you still need to eat, you still need to just do the things that you was doing before, but on top of that, building this product that you have or vision you have. Now, one of the biggest things that people talk about is around finance. Where do we get finance from? And a lot of requests that I get a lot of times, like, Mark, I just need money. I just need money to buy people in so we can get this idea to the next level. But there's pros and cons to this. So the first way of getting money is through debt financing. So you refer to taking out loans and paying them back at a specific interest rate. You retain all the profits and control of your business. I think in this day and age, there's also equity financing, which refers to selling shares or ownership in your startup. Similar to Dragon Den, you owe less money, but you won't be the only one profiting upon a success, because your investor, your part owners will split it with you. Investors might involve electing a board of directors, being informed about major business decisions, and voting any business decisions. So those are some of the give and take. But one of the tips that I would always give is that please do not give away all your equity before the business is even making any money. I would say that, please look at some advice, go and check out, go and ask people about this, because one of the biggest things that we see is that lots of people are giving away equity and they don't need to. And especially when you're not at that level of making money, or you haven't got the product ready for the market. And I would say, please take your time when you are getting investors, because there are lots of good investors and there are a lot of bad investors, and the bad investors probably might be difficult when it comes to changing things or transforming things internally. But there's a lot of good investors that will then connect you to other investors or connect you to the wider area of the sector that you cannot reach. So there's a fine balance to this. But depending on how your business needs to grow, you will obviously choose the relevant one that meets your preference. Create your own network. So one of the things that I like to do a lot, being a computer science teacher, is create networks or join networks. So I'm part of lots of computer science networks or computer networks across the country. How many networks are you a part of for the idea or innovation or product that you're currently trying to resolve? Now, I'm not saying to join these networks to give away your idea, because that might be personal to you, but you understand where the actual sector is going towards. Do you understand where the next 2 or 3 years of your sector? Do you understand how big your sector is, or globally how big it is, not just the UK? Do you know how big it is across the world? Do you know what people are doing? Do you know like the latest platforms or innovation that people are doing within your sector or within your idea? So I'd always advocate for joining social media. And I'll tell you a little secret of mine. When I first joined social media, I followed all of the top people in my field, and I just watched them for about 6 months solid. Just watching them 6 months, looking at their good practice, looking at about the stuff that they're talking about, looking at the things that they're trying to solve. And that's pretty easy on social media. You can create lots of lists, or create your own hashtag or whatever you want to do. And then that gives you kind of a broader kind of outtake or outlook of your field. And I feel that works well. And team up with other people. You don't necessarily need to team up on your idea or your startup, but teaming up with people in the terms of that, we're in this field together. I don't mind sharing information with you and vice versa. Build that up, and you'll see lots of benefits and rewards from that. Now, a couple of years ago, I wrote about this article about the risk or the lack of diversity in tech products failures. If you're building a global tech product for the world, or you're building it for your community, please make sure that you have those stakeholders involved in the making of that product or idea. And that's very key, because you don't want to build something that based upon assumption, or based upon the fact that you couldn't reach to them. Because what we're finding now is that lots of startups that have built products are actually not inclusive. It doesn't take into consideration different demographics of people, for whether it's disability, whether it's gender, race. And one of the things that we try and do at UKBlackTech is challenge a lot of startups to make sure from the get-go, make sure that diversity, inclusion is baked into your key practices, so that you're future-proofing your organization as you expand and grow, that you have that in there from the offset. And here's a prime example where we've used innovation, and it's turned out to be discriminative against a certain group of people. And I would say that in order to really get your startup going, please get as much different diverse audiences feedbacking on your product and your tools and your services, to make sure that it's a world beater, and it's not just what you think a world beater looks like. It's actually reflective of society and so forth. And again, there's a few more examples where we've launched tech, and the tech hasn't hit the point that it hasn't hit the goal that it was trying to serve. So here's just a few examples of sometimes when we do get it wrong for tech products, and especially when we're not including a diverse range of audiences. And again, when you're doing your market research, make sure you've got a wide range of people from different backgrounds and groups giving you information on your actual tool or product. Now, if you're into tech and you have this digital business or tech service that you're trying to put out there, we used to say like data. It was all about data, because once you get all the data, you can charge people for the data, and AI will obviously smooth that out. Was the goal. That was the holy grail. So if your idea or business was spitting out cool data, and artificial intelligence was helping to link it all together to automate a lot of the services, we'd say that you're definitely heading towards your milestones, or you're heading towards your goals. But also you've got to think about trust and transparency. So with the idea or innovation that you have, are you really thinking about trust and transparency? And that's one of the key thing in this generation now, that people want to trust in you. They want to trust in that your whatever you say you're going to do, it actually meets their criteria, and that they can trust you, that if they're giving over their data or whatever they're giving over to you, that you're going to do it with a sense of ethical behavior and transparency. And you know, the idea or the startup that again bakes this into their kind of platforms from the early on stage tends to do well. Because what they're saying is that actually this is what it is. This is what the service we're trying to provide, and it's clear for everyone to see where we're trying to head towards, and be a part of that journey. And a lot of the big companies now that probably started off with great ideas are now being affected because they have been jeopardized with the trust and transparency. A little bit about UKBlackTech. You've probably seen the UKBT sign at the left-hand corner of the presentation. We are an innovation group, so we do a lot of work around tech. We do a lot of work with tech professionals, digital businesses, and organizations across the UK. We kind of wanted to tour the UK, which we done last year before COVID hit. And, we saw lots of great ideas, lots of people doing great stuff across the UK. And, as an organization, we wanted to kind of showcase some of that work. We also had kids at our launch event who also had digital businesses doing great stuff. So it doesn't matter if you're young or old, long as you've got an idea, let's see how far it can go. And some of the things that we've done work with the NHS around sickle cell. So we've been innovating and looking at how we can help patients, look at sickle cell, which is a disease that affects predominantly African and Caribbean people. We also, during lockdown, we done an event with 2 universities around COVID-19. And again, looking at how it affects people. And it's interesting, the winning idea of this hackathon that we done with PwC and Microsoft was about domestic violence. And, we had a range of different application submissions, which were fantastic. But it seemed that the idea that won was an idea that was really affecting the UK around how victims, sometimes being in a home for a long period of time, can fall into violence, which this group wanted to solve. So as I said before, UKBlackTech kind of showcases innovators. So there's lots of innovators across the UK, especially coming from like different backgrounds, and lots of females and lots of people from ethnic minorities that we like to show too. And we've done some innovation showcases before to kind of showcase some of the cool stuff that people are doing, from wearable tech to artificial intelligence to construction. So that's a little bit about UKBlackTech. You might be thinking, hey, what's that logo of the UKBT? Back over to Suran if you've got any questions.
Thanks, Mark. So we've got a couple of questions, and let me read through some of them. So do you have any recommendations in regards to market research? What are the best tools or services available to achieve this?
Yeah, so I think that it's about, it could be a Google form, SurveyMonkey. It could be, first of all, those are the tools that you could potentially use. In terms of the market research, there's lots of case studies out there. As an academic, we normally look at kind of case studies of how people have done market research in the past, making sure that it's ethically correct. It's not biased towards us answering the questions. So I think that there's a range of ways you can do the market research, but it's the key thing is to start do it.
Brilliant. And so what if there are not any communities for your idea, or where would you go to find communities for your idea?
So one of the biggest things that I've seen is if you can't find any physical communities that are connected to your idea currently, there might be communities either online or in different countries. And one thing that we've seen over the last years or so is that it's very easy to join different groups. And if you can't find a group, it's about asking other people. So I know that KTN have a fantastic network of advisors that can give you or point you to the right direction. if you reach out to us, we can point you into the right direction too. So there's never enough advice if you cannot find your audience. And please, the key thing here is to ask if you can't find it yourself.
I'm also going to point out, I hope you don't mind me jumping in, Mark, that yeah, as Mark said, KTN can help you with advice for things like that. But we should also say that the organizations that exist to help businesses don't do so in isolation. If they can't help, they usually direct you to somebody who's a better fit for you as well. So there's no harm in reaching out. It's likely not going to be a no and a closed door. It's going to be a, we can't help, but here's somebody that can. Okay, so going back to the questions, what are your thoughts regarding mentorship, and when should you be seeking that type of reference point to learn from, especially in regards to the ideas or project life cycle, to ensure it's the best use of yours and the mentor's time?
Yes, that's a fantastic question. So mentors, you can get a mentor to keep you to account. So there's some governance and accountability to you, and someone that can hold you to your goals. That could be someone in the academia world. So someone, if you're part of an institution, there could be a lecturer that can help you through that process. As again, there's organizations such as us or KTN. We've got a massive network, and you know, there might be someone in there that might be passionate with the same passion that you are and are willing to mentor you. So there is no specific time when you need a mentor, but I would recommend that you're actively looking for people to have on board. Now, mentored advisors and sponsors are all different things. So if it's a mentor to help you and hold your hand through the process of your different experiences running the startup, then that can happen very early on in that stage. Now, if it's like an advisor, then you might want to get them in once you're ready to launch the product, or you know, you want to put it into the market. So it really depends on what stage you're at. But with mentors, there's different ways to get mentors, and I would encourage to have someone that keeps you to account and can have those difficult conversations with you, even at an early stage of your idea.
So next question is, what is your opinion on peer-to-peer businesses like Uber or Airbnb? And are there any tips for acquiring dual users and any resources that you can point them towards?
Yeah, so when we think about bigger organizations such as Uber and Airbnb, we've got to understand that, you know, people have invested quite a lot of money for these organizations to work. And, you know, even to some of these big companies, they still haven't made any money to this day, or profit to this day. Now, with peer-to-peer business, if you've got, obviously, it depends on what type of networks you're in, depends on what type of sector you're in. If there's a sector that you need to collaborate and you need to exchange different kind of resources and technology, then that's fantastic. But if you're in a field where it doesn't necessarily have that culture or history of doing that, then you might come across some difficulties. So two things that I would recommend in answering that question is, one, how big is the network you're trying to get into, or how big is the network that you're trying to operate in? And then number two, have you, apart from like probably the Uber and Airbnb, have you seen anything at an SME level or a lower level doing the same thing? Because if you are seeing that same thing, then there might be an opportunity for you to do that too. Not to go too big as these big kind of multi-million-pound companies, first of all.
Brilliant. And lastly, because I know we're running short on time, there's a lot of great information online about submitting ideas, but can you briefly describe how we go from a great idea in our minds to a fully funded company?
Yes. So again, as I was saying in my presentation, I showed you a range of different models and around how to basically turn that idea into more of a fully functional kind of business. Now, when you are taking, the easiest thing is the idea. I said at the beginning of the presentation, the easiest thing is the idea. But when you are turning it into a business, you need to make sure that the foundation's right. So one, you know, admin, marketing, financing, whether it's IP, copyright, and so forth. So there's a range of different steps that you need to take. And what's beautiful in this day and age, that there's so much information to get that right, to not get it wrong. So that's the positive news, is that, like, again, I will also plug KTN, that, you know, this, and also the government have released lots of materials on how to set this up properly. Now, the challenge is how you make that into a successful business. That will be done over time. That's, again, the sunflower seed, planting it, nurturing it over a period of time to make sure that you are making profit, you are getting the exposure, and clients are satisfied.
So we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much for hosting today's webinar, Mark. Hopefully today's session has inspired a few of you to take the next step in your innovation journey. I mean, it's certainly inspired me to think more creatively and brought to my attention a number of different models of innovation development that I just didn't know about. So also I'd like to thank everyone who's joined us online today. Our next Ideas Mean Business webinar is taking place next Friday, the 4th of September, where Julian Hall, CEO of Ultra Education, will be explaining why you need to disrupt in business. We hope that you can all join us. If you'd like to keep up to date with all the Young Innovators news and events, please do sign up to our newsletter, follow us on Instagram, or visit our program page. I'll be putting them details up at the end. And remember, there is still time to submit your applications for the Young Innovators Award, where 32 young innovators aged 18 to 30 will receive a £5,000 grant and a year's of tailored business support. We will circulate details about that. It closes on the 2nd of September, so be quick. Once again, I'd like to express a massive thank you to Mark Martin for hosting the wonderful session today, and for you all for joining us. I hope to see you all again next week. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.